All right, so for today we're going to be working on section 9.3, which is volumes of cylinders and prisms. Now there are two formulas that you guys are going to have to know, okay? The one for prisms, which a lot of people call cubes sometimes, but cubes are only if all the sides are identical. But if they are, then they call them cubes. If they're not, then we just call them like rectangular prisms, okay? So we're going to talk about the formula for prisms, and then we're going to talk about the formula for cylinders a little bit after. But you can kind of see we have these rectangular boxes, right? And then eventually we get to these cylinders, okay? So we'll do all that stuff together. Well, not everything, but we'll do a lot of it together. And then let you guys do the rest for homework. But let's start off with the first formula that you guys need. So prisms. So we're going to do volume of prisms. So normally a prism tends to look kind of like a three-dimensional box, right? It doesn't have to be a square, it doesn't have to be a rectangle perfectly. It could just be something that looks like it. Okay, so there's a prism. Now, the most important thing for you guys to be able to recognize from it is that you have a length, a width, and a height. Now, they can rotate these things however they want. Okay, they can spin them around however they want. But all you want to figure out is what is your length, your width, and your height. And your formula is length times width times height. So it's pretty easy, the formula for a prism, at least a rectangular prism here. It's just multiplying the three dimensions, right? The length, the width, and the height. Once you have that, just multiply everything out, and you should be good. So there's nothing more really to this. It's not a huge mystery or anything like that. So let me go over some of these things with you guys. Now I'm going to try to highlight some stuff just so you can see it. Okay? So if you look at the very first shape, you see a bunch of numbers everywhere. Okay? So what we want to try to figure out is what is the length. Whoops, wrong color here. What is the length? What is the width? And what is the height? Now, it doesn't really matter which one you label what. So I'm going to start off with, let's say this piece right here. I'm going to call that my length. Okay, so let's put 5 centimeters. And then let's call this piece here my width. So this is going to be 5 centimeters as well. Okay? Now, if you look at the last dimension that we have in use, it's the 11 centimeters, right? So this 11 centimeters right here is going to be my height. So 11 centimeters. So in order to find the volume, I'm just going to do length times width times height. Now 5 times 5, that's 25, and 25 times 11, that's 275. And my unit, since this is volume, is going to be cubed, so centimeters cubed. And you should be able to see your answer right here. Okay, so length times width times height. All right, now again, you can kind of assign it however you'd like, but there are some that say, okay, well, there's another way that we can do this, maybe by using the area of our base and things like that. So we'll get into that right now. Okay, so first one, we're done. Now let's go to the next one, just so you can see how they're all kind of the same. Okay, now just to introduce something to you guys, an easy way, I don't know if I want to say easy, but some people, the way they try to do this is they say, okay, what would be the base of my shape? Like if I were to stand it up, what would that look like? So I would maybe say like I'd use this as my base. I try to stand it up right there. What's the shape of that base? Just the green part. What's the shape that it makes? Well, rectangular. Rectangular, right? It is part of the square family, right? But it's rectangular. So, remember how I told you guys that the volume of a prism, people would say length times width times height? There are some people that write it like this. Okay? Where B sub A is area of the base. And this is actually the way I prefer to write it, because then it becomes a little bit more of a dynamic equation. Okay, the area of the base. So if I look at the bottom, that green portion, okay, let me kind of draw it out here for us. The green portion. I know this is 10, right? So the side that has a 10, I know there's two sides that are 10 and 10 right here, right? Like this would be 10 as well. What is the length of the other two sides? Can you tell me? 7, right? So what is the area of that base? Now, if you guys remember, we did these. These are called parallelograms, right? That shape that I have, that's a parallelogram. The area is base times height, right? 7 times 10. That's 70. Okay? So that's the area of that green shaded region. What's the height of my object? 10, right? It's right here. That's going to be h. So let me just multiply this answer. So volume equals base area. That's 70 times 10. Okay? If anything, let me put B sub A right here so you guys know where that number came from. 70 times 10. That's 700. And the units are inches cubed. So just so that we kind of recap on this, okay? When you guys are doing these, you're going to try to find the base area first. And the reason why I tell you this is a better formula, base area times height, is because sometimes the area of the bases can be circular, sometimes they can be triangular, they can be rectangular, square, they can change. So if all you have to do is find the area of the base first, and then multiply it times your height, it's a little bit more dynamic of an equation, right? So what we did is in green, I colored in the base just to kind of show us what it would look like. And then I said, okay, let me draw that green piece out here. Now you don't have to draw, you can just do it in your head, but I'm just trying to show it to you guys here. And I said, what are the dimensions of this? I know this is a rectangle, right? So the dimensions would be 10 by 7. So since it's 10 by 7, 10 times 7 is 70. So that's the base area. Okay, now let me just multiply the base area times the height. And you guys said the height was 10. So 10 times 70, that's what we have at the very bottom. V equals 70 times 10. That's 700 inches cubed. Okay, if we look back at the second question, which by the way, this would be an answer of F right here, okay? But if we go back to the previous problem, okay, if I erase this that I put right here, and let's say I use this as my base. Okay, what would be the dimensions of that green area? What by what? 5 by 11, right? Like if you want, I'll draw it for you guys here. You have this shape right here. We know this is 5 and this is 11, right? The 11's up here. So that's this side right here. So it's 5 by 11. What's the area of that shape if it's 5 by 11? 55, right? 55. This is the base area, 55, times height. What's my height? I'm sorry. Yeah. So what's my height for this? 5, right? So 55, if we do it the other way, base area times height, 55 times 5, that equals to 275. Same answer. Okay? But I just got to think, okay, what's the base area and what's the height? What's the base area? What's the height? Okay? So you can either pick from your numbers that you're given and hopefully you pick the right ones, or you can think of it as a base area first times your height. So notice it works either way. So let's look at this one right here. So I mean, this one's a little easier to choose your base, right? You're going to use this right here, that shape right there. So I'll color it in just so you can see it. Now let's use the formula. Volume is equal to base area times height. Let's figure out the base area. So let me draw it. So right now it looks something like this, okay, where this is 4. This is this shape right here, okay. What's this side right here? 3 is on the sides. Basically what I need is either this side or this side that's going kind of horizontally, I guess, or diagonally, not straight up and down. Straight up and down is 3. This would be this 4, right? This 4 would be right there. This 4 basically goes down there. So this is a 4 by 4. What's the area of a 4 by 4 object? 16. So there you go. That's my base area. So volume is equal to 16 times, and then what's the height of this thing? That's my 3, right? That's my height right here. So I'm just going to multiply 16 times 3. That's 48 cubic feet, which would be H. So when I was your age, my teacher only taught me length, width, and height. So it didn't seem that hard. I'm like, okay, you just need 3 numbers. But then when I look at a picture like number 6, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers that they gave me. So my biggest concern was, which 3 out of the 5 am I going to pick? Right? If they only gave me 3 numbers, then I'd be happy because I just use all 3. But sometimes they give you a bunch of numbers. So later on, when I got a little older and I was in college, one of the teachers was telling me, like, oh, your volume formulas are easy. You just got to remember what's the area of your base times your height. And I'm like, oh yeah, that is a lot better, because then I can just change it up whenever I need it. It becomes a dynamic formula. So that's why I prefer teaching it this way. Okay, base area times height. Based on your base shape, so for us right here was a square, right? You can find the area of that and then just multiply it times your height. And you don't have to worry about all the extra numbers all over the place. So let's do one more of these, then we'll move over to the cylinders. Huh? What did I? Oh, you want me to go back up? Okay, go ahead. To show this one or the previous one? This answer right here, yeah, 48 cubic feet. It was 16 times 3. By the way, you'll notice there's no pi's in this one, right? Remember in the other homework you had a couple things where they always had pi in it, right? There's no pi in prisms, okay? There is pi in cylinders, but not in prisms. Are we good? You're good, Patrick? All right. So here we go. So again, you can choose whatever your base is. You can color in whatever side you want. I usually just try to keep it like the normal looking one. So for me, I'm going to use the bottom of this shape, which I guess is this piece right here. So in other words, that looks like this. Now, what are my dimensions of this bottom piece? What by what? 9 by 9. Yeah, 9 by 9 right here, right? 9 by 9. So this is a square. So what's my area for that square? 81, because 9 times 9 is 81. That's my area. So that's my base area. So if I write my formula, V equals to base area times height. Okay, base area is 81. So V equals to 81 times, what's the height of this shape? 12, right? So it's going to be this part right here. So H is 12. So volume is equal to, well, let's see, 81 times 12. I know I can't do that in my head right off, but I know that 81 times 11 is 891. 891 plus 81. So, hold on. 891, 81, that'd be 972. So there you go. So 972 cubic centimeters. Are we okay with the prisms part? So just base area times height. All right, so let's move on then. So again, just find your base area, multiply times height, you'll get your answers, okay? I usually like to kind of draw out my base area on the side just to make sure I know what shape I'm looking at. That's why you'll see me do stuff like this. But you don't have to, you can just do it in your head. Okay, I'm more of a visual person, so I need to see it. All right, so now we're going to do some cylinders, okay? Now the only difference between these cylinders here, okay, so notice 10, 12, notice their answers are all like decimal values, right? But then they start putting pi's in them. So the only difference is that part of them they're going to say give us the answer, and then the other one's going to say give us the answer in terms of pi. That's all. So it's the same problems, but they're just going to have pi in the problems, okay? So, let me put this here. Let's go over the formula for a cylinder. Okay, so volume of a cylinder. Now you notice how I stand it up, okay? I keep the circular bases on the ground and up on top. Sometimes you'll see some pictures where they put them sideways. So I would recommend that you, in your head, turn them back around, okay? Or redraw them so that the circles are on your base, okay? So, for this, your formula is V equals pi r squared h. Okay? Now, just so that you guys, well, I don't know if you remember, but do you guys remember what the area is of a circle? Anybody know the area of a circle? So just to remind you, area of a circle is pi r squared. This is the area of the circle on the bottom, which is my base. So notice how this formula can still be written as base area times height. Right? Because pi r squared is the area of my base. So notice the formula for a prism was base area times height. The formula for a cylinder is base area times height. It's just the only thing that's switching is the base. What kind of shape is it? A square, a rectangle, a triangle, a trapezoid, a circle, right? What kind of base does it have? But what I'm going to do with you guys is I'm going to stick to using this one, because a lot of people will prefer just to use this one instead of doing base area times height. Okay, so I'm going to stick to using that one, pi r squared h. All right, so pi r squared h. By the way, your r value, I know I didn't draw it, but this is your r value, okay? Your radius. If they give you the diameter, remember you divide it by 2, that'll give you your radius. Okay, we talked about that before. And again, stand the shape like normal, like a soda can if you can, all right? Like where the circles are the bases, all right? That always makes it easier to do the work. So let me show you how this works. So number 10 is already set up like that, so it's nice, okay? Notice here, they tell me that the radius is what? 2, yeah, 2 kilometers, right? So volume equals pi r squared h. Volume equals pi, r is 2 squared. What's my height? 10, right? It's this thing right here. Okay, that's 10. So this will be 2 squared is 4. 4 times 10, that's 40 pi. Now, I'm not going to do a lot of these problems for you guys because I'm going to kind of show you both sets all at once. If the instructions tell you to leave your answer in terms of pi, then you leave it like this. Okay, that's how you would leave it if they want it in terms of pi. Okay? But if they tell you, like, just find me the answer, I'm going to do that for us right now. So 40, I'm going to do that on my calculator here, times 3.141592653. That comes out to 125.6637. And they're probably going to want you to round it to the nearest hundredths. So that means this 3 will not change the 6. So it's 125.66 kilometers cubed. So I'm going to highlight this just to show you, like, hey, if they want it in terms of pi, then that's your answer, 40 pi. But if they want it as a decimal answer, then you got to multiply by it, and that's going to give you 125.66, etc., right? So we're going to do one more of these, and I'm going to let you guys work on this because we don't really have to go much further. I'm going to skip this one because it's very much the same. I do want to just kind of make a quick note. Is 8 my radius? No. What's that called? Diameter. So what's my radius? 4 divided by 2, okay? So I just wanted to show that to you guys. Notice in this set of examples, they're saying answers in terms of pi, okay? But I want to do 14 with you guys. You notice how 14 looks like a soda can that got pushed over, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to redraw it. It looks like this. It doesn't have to look perfect, okay? But it kind of looks like this. What's my radius for this thing? 11, right? It's 11. And what's my height? 12, okay? That's it. I just redrew it so it's standing. That way my base is a circle. So here we go. Volume equals pi r squared h. Volume equals pi. My radius is 11 squared times 12. Okay, 11 squared, 11 times 11 is 121. Times 12, that's in the thousands for sure. Let me see, I'm going to calculate that really quick. 121 times 12, 1,452 pi miles cubed. So it's right here, letter I. Okay? And that's all you're going to have to do for your homework is you're going to be finding volumes of prisms, which doesn't have pi in it, and volumes of cylinders, which do have pi's in it. Now, sometimes you get to calculate with it, sometimes you don't. Okay, sometimes you just got to leave it alone.